What's up, YouTube? This is Slide 8 Fry here, off to a late start. Had to work today, couldn't get around it. James Rolfe on Cinemassacre uploaded a new AVGN episode, Angry Video Game Nerd episode. I actually knew the next episode was going to be Earthworm Jim. I watched a video of his a few weeks ago, I think, where he was describing the writing process of making an episode, and he actually very briefly gave away that his next episode would be Earthworm Jim. Now, with the title of this video, I'm a little disappointed. It's titled Earthworm Jim Trilogy. Earthworm Jim isn't a trilogy. Let me point this out. I grew up in the 90s, so I definitely played Earthworm Jim. I didn't play the first one that much. I was able to play it a little bit with the Sega Channel back then. I was more familiar with Earthworm Jim 2, and I beat that one on the Super Nintendo. I've much later been able to play both games. I played both of them on the Wii, downloaded both of them to the Wii, over a decade later. They're both available on Switch, although with the basic online membership, you only get Earthworm Jim 2 because it's the Super Nintendo version, which that's what I would hope for. The Super Nintendo version is better for the second game. But the first game, they only gave you the Genesis version, so you'd have to pay the $50 per year for the online expansion pass so you can get Genesis games, and you'll get the first game on there. Both games are great, and I think the first game is a lot harder than the second game. Plain and simple. I really do think the first game is a lot harder than the second game. I remember when I got back into playing the games, I had a rough time with the first game for a bit. I mean, I could beat the first game now, but at first it was a lot more difficult. The second game I hadn't played in like over a decade, and I was able to get to the final level and beat it. So, second game's way easier. Anyways, I just want to point out, yes, the first game is better on Genesis, because for some reason, even though it's quite clear the Super Nintendo has better sound quality than the Sega Genesis, somehow the composers really they made the music sound really awkward and weird for the Super Nintendo in the first game, but it sounds really good for the Sega Genesis. For the second game, it still sounds pretty good in the Sega Genesis, but they got it right with the Super Nintendo. It sounds a lot better on that. Now, by Trilogy, I'm pretty sure, especially judging by the thumbnail for this AVGN episode, James is talking about Earthworm Jim 3D on the N64. I wasn't aware of that game until much later. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, but I was not aware of that game until much later. So obviously that game didn't do so well. I haven't heard good things about it in general. Seemed to have killed the franchise, but there is another game he's failing to mention. There's an Earthworm Jim game I played on the Gameboy Color back when it was new in the late 90s, and it was good. It was side-scrolling, but more like a big, giant levels, kind of like, not really sandbox, I guess, but like really big rooms of levels. It's kind of like when you play a level on Super Mario 64, except it's 2D instead of 3D, and you're supposed to get a bunch of things, and then you can leave the level. That's how it works. So, anyways, yes, imagination, sweetheart. Thank you. Anyways, judging by the title and the thumbnail, I don't think he's even going to mention that Game Boy Color game. It's different than the first two games that came out for Genesis, SNES, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, whatever, but I think it would be worth mentioning, and he's not going to, so I'm sorry to say I'm already a little disappointed, but let's just finally get around to it and watch the episode. Oh yeah. Check this out. Got this at Hot Topic. Awesome Kirby shirt. I also got Kirby shorts too. And yeah, they're pink. So what? People actually like the outfit. They think it's really awesome.
When I think back to the 90s, I think of two things, slapstick and crude humor. First, slapstick. Looney Tunes was still popular. The physical comedy and visual gags were still being referenced a lot. Animaniacs and Tiny Toons were direct successors. Then there was Jim Carrey, whose highly expressive face was almost like a cartoon, especially when he had a CG makeover in The Mask. He was like a live-action Looney Tunes character.
No kidding.
And then the crude humor and bodily functions were on full display in Dumb and Dumber, which had all three: piss, shit, and puke. The Green Day album that year was called Dookie. Beavis and Butthead were at their peak, and Ren and Stimpy had been wreaking havoc the first half of the decade. It was clear the 90s was the age of the gross out, and it was also the 16-bit era. Games of the period were flexing their new technology, showing off more complex character design and animation. Interplay gave us Booger Man, which fully embraced the gross-out trend. The peak of the Turd Mountain, overlooking the Barf Marsh, and somewhere where the butt winds blow south to the vomit valleys and doo-doo dunes, between the boiling ass canyons and solid wastelands, there lies Earthworm Jim. Somebody put pen to paper and said, "How about a worm in a spacesuit?" And from that point on, the world was never the same. The character appeared in many sequels, including Clay Fighter 63 1/3, which also featured Booger Man. Earthworm Jim had his own animated series, voiced by Dan Castellaneta, best known as Homer Simpson.
Groovy!
I remember when the first Earthworm Jim game came out, it was like nothing I had ever seen. And even though it was on both Genesis and Super Nintendo and was nearly identical, I've always thought of it as a Genesis game. That's the one that came out first, the one I played as a kid, and that's the one I'll be playing now.
Yeah.
I have fond memories of this game. Let's see if its inventive game mechanics, fun visuals, and sense of humor still holds up. Some may say it's all about boogers, but it's not.
It's not.
Level 1 starts, and right away, the first thing you do in the whole game is you drop a fridge to launch a cow.
Yeah.
It says, "Cow launched," as if you just completed some major objective. Cow launched? What purpose does that have? Where is the cow now? It has no effect on the rest of the game. You just launch a cow for no reason. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well,
on top of the zany humor, the character animation is so lively, it's like playing a cartoon. Since Jim is a worm, he uses his head like a rope or a whip. He can use it to attack enemies, he can twirl it like a helicopter, or he can hang on to stuff or swing across. There's no shortage of things the character can do, and the control is fluid and smooth. The way he interacts with the scenery feels natural. When he jumps on the pile of tires, there's a certain rebound that feels just right. The music is awesome. In this case, I prefer the Genesis because it has that gritty, bassy sound to it.
It works with this game very well. It's somehow messed up on the SNES.
And the sound effects are hilarious. All the little voices when Jim gets hurt, or the way the birds scream when you gun them down. And then you get to the boss and the guy's making armpit farts while burping up fish. Amazing. I love when you complete the level, he says groovy.
Groovy!
You gotta love characters that say groovy.
Groovy.
Groovy, baby.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Level 2, what the heck, is clearly what the hell, as in literally hell. And this has got to be one of the best all-time hell levels. I mean, just look at it.
So good.
I'm getting major Disney Fantasia vibes, or Don Bluth's All Dogs Go to Heaven. It's so awesome that I'm having a hard time consolidating everything I want to say. For the music, they use the classic Ride of the Valkyries, but then there's a record skip, and it goes to something super peaceful. But every now and then, you hear somebody screaming. What's going on?
Oh, that's awesome.
The enemies are priceless. There's these chomping monster things, and then there's lawyers. I guess they're making a joke about lawyers and hell.
Yeah,
and then there's things you would never think of, like a snowman in hell.
Yeah.
And what are these things? Farting assholes? They're farting assholes! I like the evil cat who's in the background the whole time. That actually turns out to be the stage boss, Evil the Cat. Yeah, just a cute little white cat, like Yeti, who keeps blasting fireballs out of cannon. It's little details like the recoil animation, and how the cat stops to lick itself. It's great. Not to mention, Jim is out of the spacesuit, which is funny, just to remind you that he really is a worm.
Yeah.
Level 3 is some underwater base.
Oh, the music down the tubes is what the level's called. The music there is so good. It's like some of the coolest video game music I've ever heard in my life. It's amazing. Um, if you just want to listen to something cool and just kind of, just you don't even. It's not even like super hype or anything. Just something really cool and sounds amazing. Down the tubes, Earthworm Jim, Sega Genesis. It's so good. This level though has a particular part. I know he's going to talk about it. He has to bring up this particular part of this level that I'm thinking
There's
of.
these little orange guys that are real unassuming, but if you go near them, they'll slam you around.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. You gotta hop on a giant hamster to eat them up.
Yeah.
And next thing, you're in a little submarine.
Oh,
So this
here it
game is always giving you something new. It has a
what's so
ton
great
of
about it.
variety, and I can't say enough good things about it.
But here comes this. Yes. Yes.
Oh, fuck. Okay, this part might be a problem.
It is
Controlling the submarine
hard.
is not self-explanatory or intuitive. You have to turn the jet propulsions around so that they're pushing you in the right direction. It also gains momentum. You don't want to build up too much speed. If you hit something, it ricochets you back and you lose control. If the
Yeah.
glass cracks too much, you're done for.
Oh, yes.
So you want to take it slow. But you can't take it slow. There's a time limit. You got to get to the next checkpoint before you run out of air. Come on, take it easy. Nice
You're
and
gonna run out of
easy.
time.
No need to rush. Whoa, that was close. Motherfucker! Fuck!
I knew he was going to talk about this part.
Ah! Fuck it! You know what? I take back everything I said. This game fucking sucks. I'm not even playing around. It's horse shit.
I had gotten to the point because after I had been reintroduced to the Earthworm Jim games later by downloading them to the Wii, as I didn't play the first one that much, played the second one a lot more. I had a lot more time in my hands back then, and I actually had gotten to the point where I can actually control that little submarine thing at full speed and go through the whole thing without taking damage. Well, not the whole thing, but like I would actually go through it full speed, turn at the perfect time, don't hit any of the walls, keep going. I might bump into a couple here and there, but I actually had kind of gotten to the point to do that. So he's right, the controls are not self-explanatory. They're not. But once you get used to them, you know exactly how to control it. The issue is being smart with your speed, knowing when to, put on the brakes, just, stop speeding up. Remembering and timing all your turns. Like when you practice it enough, you can theoretically go through the whole thing without actually taking any damage at full speed. I don't think I've actually done the whole thing without taking any damage at full speed non-stop, but I have done the whole thing without taking damage at full speed almost the whole time. I would slow down a little bit when I felt a little unsure towards the end and make it. It's very satisfying because that part when you're first starting out, it's really hard. It's not just the controls, just time limit, making sure you don't bump into the walls because you damage yourself enough, you die. It's tough, but it's very rewarding to get it done. No. Don't give up. Don't give up. You can do this. You gave up too soon.
You know what? There's more levels.
Yeah, you
I shouldn't
dumbass.
have done that.
Yeah. Where are those little elves that restore your game? Or gnomes, or whatever the hell those things were. Oh yeah, like it's gonna work like that.
If you make it past the submarine, next up is level 4, Snot a Problem.
Yeah,
As in
is fun.
snot, mucus, boogers. It's
Yeah.
fucking nasty. The idea is to defeat the green guy, Major Mucus, by weakening his booger bungee cord till he falls. But don't get bitten in half by the snot monster below.
Yeah,
Wow, it always impresses me how they keep making new death animations.
it is.
Come on.
Impressive.
Oh,
There you go.
come on, what happened there? Next is the app.
So, that's not a problem. There's actually 3 parts. Yeah, there's actually 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. That's how I do 3. First part's actually really easy. You can easily take down the guy. But then the second part, it gets really hard. And the third part, it's really, really hard. Because here's the thing. If you hit the wall, you damage your rope. He pushes into you, damages your rope. You have to push into him the right way, and you could ram him really hard and hit him against the wall. If you can get into the right momentum to just push him against that wall a lot, you'll make him take a lot of damage. But then sometimes he'll start spinning around like crazy, and you can't touch him, or else he'll just hurt you. It's challenging, but it's pretty fun. Level 5. This is an interesting one.
Named Level 5. Most notable things here, well, first, Jim gets separated from his suit.
Yeah.
And you have to fight Professor Monkey for a head.
Yeah.
That's his name, and that's what he is.
That's true.
I've got a monkey grafted to my head.
The next stage is called For Pete's Sake. It's an escort mission where you have to keep this little puppy safe. Oh, look at that cute little puppy just skipping around. So carefree. Oh, love that little guy. Oh, shit!
So with a game that has so many fart sounds and mucus and gross out humor, all I can say is you haven't seen anything yet. Here comes the grossest level in video game history. Intestinal distress.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck?
And the music is dark and creepy.
Ah.
What is that supposed to be? I don't want to know. Oh. Oh, boy. Oh.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that boss being annoying.
This is where they took it a little too far. Somebody decided, hey, let's just go all the way and make it as disgusting as possible. On top of that, there's something real disturbing about the music.
Oh, yes. Very dark.
The whole thing just creeps me out. Oh, but the next and final stage is called Buttville. Oh, no.
This level's so difficult.
Okay, it's not so bad. Just a bunch of spikes and lightning. This part, you better be ready to die, and die. In the end, you defeat Queen Slug for a butt, and then rescue Princess What's-Her-Name, and then
that's her name.
the cow. The cow from level 1 lands on her. And if you wait through the credits, they fall through the ground into lava.
Overall, it's a great game with great variety and great sense of humor, but has some frustrating parts. So there you go.
Oops.
I'd like to introduce The Balance of Shit Justice. A game with no problems will sit in the green zone to mark its outstanding excellence.
Okay.
But with every flaw, every turd that drops on the other side, it moves the game into a worse zone. This one, by my assessment, is a rather good game with a few turds weighing on it. Want some more? Well, I figured if I'm going to play through one game, I might as well play through the sequel, Earthworm Jim 2. Consider this.
I wish you did the Super Nintendo for the second one, because, yeah, the music sounds better on the first game on the Genesis, but on the second game, for the Super Nintendo, the music sounds better. I just wish you did that one instead, but whatever. Do the Genesis for both, I guess.
A bonus. First up, level 1, anything but tangerines.
Oh yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Is it just me, or are things getting even weirder? You're lifting pigs out of pig pens, sending them down slides into fish bowls, putting them on boards of wood to raise weights.
Yeah.
If you leave them alone, they meditate and float away. Whenever Jim stands still, he takes a little guy out of his pocket and eats him. You're stealing motorized stair chairs from angry old ladies. And next, in level 2, Lorenzen Soil, you're moving dirt around, which is probably the most worm-like thing Earthworm Jim has ever done. And what was that? What did he just do? Scattered in between are these recurring stages where you're bouncing puppies off a cushion or giant marshmallow, trying to get them into a funnel, or else they go splat. Damn! That's fucking brutal.
It is.
Baby puppies splatting on the concrete? That's fucked up. But you want to see some crazy shit? Level 3, Jim's now a blind cave salamander.
Yeah.
You're back in the intestines again. As if anyone wanted to see that. But now you look like an oxalotl. A fucking oxalotl.
sure.
What's the theme of this level? There's weird membrane shit, pencils, pinball parts, windows. Next thing, you're plunged into a game show all of a sudden.
Yeah.
How does Jim spell his first name?
Wow.
All those are misspelled, though.
It begs the question. Who pitched this idea? And how in the holy mother of shit were they not dismissed as just being a total lunatic? It's as if the whole point was to make everything as random as humanly possible. That'd be like if I came to you and said, hey, I got an idea for a game.
Okay.
How about you're an eastern spadefoot toad in the Helix Nebula, and you gotta stab foiled chairs with rubber chickens, and out come marble giraffes, and you have to balance the giraffes on feather wreaths, and you take them to hot tubs full of salsa, which transforms the giraffes into cat trophies, which you have to collect and place all the trophies along a line of Twizzlers before a blue panda comes and eats them all, and then morphs into a giant ball of metal slime! Let's play the game.
That was one of the craziest rants I've ever seen, actually, from AVGN. So, good stuff. How do you think that compares to that rant he made on the Atari Jaguar Part 2 episode when he played the Attack of the Mutant Penguins and he was describing that really weird idea for a game he just came up with? It'd be hard to actually bring the whole thing up right now. It's a lot of stuff, but I think it's kind of comparable to that. Probably not as crazy as that one, but that was pretty good. That was awesome.
Level 4, the Flying King.
Oh, yeah, this
somebody
level
switched
sucks.
on the diarrhea dial. The suck
Yeah.
power, that ass straw is turned to full blast. It's bad enough that everything's trying to kill you, and it's like trying to dodge rain droplets in a thunderstorm like in Silver Surfer. But on
it's not as
top of
bad as
that,
that.
you have to keep track of this balloon that's carrying an explosive. You
Yep.
can't let it blow up. And you have to keep pushing it all the way to the end of the stage.
Yeah.
But you can't focus on the balloon because there's too many enemies to deal
Yeah,
with.
that's true.
Also,
So,
whenever you beat a stage, the cows talk.
Well done.
and press buttons.
Gotta ask. What's the deal with all the cows?
I don't know.
Some running joke, I guess? I don't get it. What is this preposterous preoccupation with cows? Just some random animal that you can't stop referencing? All right, let's play some more of this buffalo shit.
Buffalo shit, cows. Is he even going to demonstrate that when you beat a level on Earthworm Jim 2 and the cows talk to you, you could actually press the buttons on the controller and make them talk more? Like, I don't remember what it is on the Sega Genesis, but I'm pretty sure you can do it on either the Genesis or the Super Nintendo version, either of them. And, like, you press a button, he'll say it again. You press a different button, he'll say well done in slow motion, like, well done. You press another button, he'll say, like, well done, like, with a high pitch, well done, like that, quickly. But you can just kind of go crazy with it. Just keep pressing the buttons after you beat the level, and just keep having him say well done. I don't know why didn't he mention that? Come on.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Well done.
Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Level 5, utterly abducted.
Oh, yeah, this level.
Yeah, we're going full cow now.
Yes, we are.
Here, you have to pick up cows and take them into these stables where the machine milks them. The milk
Yeah.
fills the pail and lifts up the barrier. Next time,
Yes.
you need 2 cows, and then 3,
And then
or
there's
else the
like-
barrier won't lift all the way. Did
Yeah.
Jim ever think about ducking under the barrier? I guess that would make too much sense. Here's where it gets nuts. The cows can get abducted by aliens.
Yes.
And let me tell you, these aliens want these cows bad. They are persistent as fuck and never go away. That's my cow! Get your own! You don't know the meaning of suffering until you've been hauling a cow over cliffs and almost making it to the stable,
Yeah,
only to
yeah.
have a UFO take the cow away. Man, I have some real beef with this level. Get
Beef.
your tractor beam off my fucking cow, you alien piece of shit! If you lose the cow, you gotta go all the way back. If you die, you go all the way back. And if the cow explodes for no reason, You go all the way back. Yes, some of the cows are explosive, and you have a time limit to take them to a bathtub to defuse them.
Just a random
Who would think to do that? But that's not all.
On,
you have
obvious.
to find the cows in the correct order. You think maybe they put a little too much thought into this? The cows spawn from flowers. Yes, I didn't even mention that yet.
Yeah,
the cows
so
spawn
bizarre.
from flowers. If you come to a flower and it doesn't spawn the cow, that's how you know you've approached it in the wrong order. It would have really helped if they at least had an arrow or something to guide you. But no, you gotta just take a shitty guess. Meanwhile, there's these magician coffins that I can't stop falling into. And if it's not already complicated enough, you have to launch the cow over with a cannon. But then you gotta get yourself over by swinging on snot. Oh my god, can you believe that shit? Oh man, there has to be another way over there. You can't go through? And there's a 1-up just to tease you.
That's not a
Alright, well, I gotta go back. Fuck! Next,
Those are
in
really
level
easy to
6,
avoid. You're just
inflated
not playing
head,
that
your
very
worm head
well.
turns into a balloon, and you have to dodge everything in sight.
Make sure you slow
If
down.
you get hit
Slow down.
by anything, it pops your head,
Slow
and you
down.
fall back down, down, down.
Yeah.
It's as cheap as it gets. You know,
It's a
variety
challenge,
is
though.
one thing, but when every stage is something wildly different, it starts to feel like you're constantly trying to learn a new game. It never lets you get used to one thing, just keeps throwing you these crappy curveballs. In level 7,
Level's actually
ISO
not as hard as it's
9000,
making it out to
you're
be,
jumping
though.
across piles of legal paperwork.
This
You have to
level's a
carry
challenge,
mice
though.
in rolling cage balls and take them to certain destinations, but the real pain in the ass here is all the killer filing cabinets.
Yeah, that's...
These
oh my
things
God.
will not chill. They just
No.
keep on coming, and they never, ever stop. Man, that's a shitty day. Don't you hate it when you get stuck between a filing cabinet and a magician's coffin? I can't get over that filing cabinet. I know you're supposed to jump on the drawer, but I still can't get over it. He's
You
gonna kill me
could've-
against the wall. Ugh! Level 8 is
screwed
called
up.
Level 8. As
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but you got to get those papers up from the ground, and it will be sucked up by the filing cabinet. The way it's done is actually when you're running on the ground at that office level, papers just kind of fling up, and yeah. But the thing that he kind of screwed up on, which I don't know, he might have done on purpose for the video, is he could have gotten up there without dying. If he just jumped to the right, Earthworm Jim would have grabbed the ledge and climbed right up. Trust me, I know. He could have done that.
in food. Yeah, you gotta love food levels. This would have to
Yeah.
make my top 10 food stages. Look at this. Running from salt shakers and straws.
Yeah.
Literally whipping eggs. Hopping across all types of meat.
Yeah.
Got some burgers sizzling in the background.
No kidding.
Wonder if they're from the same cows.
Oh my
Level
God, that's
9 is a
brutal.
secret level, which you can otherwise skip past. It's called Totally Forked, which is a great name, but the Genesis version here just says Forked. So there's some regional differences, and I guess my region couldn't handle the joke. I wonder if there's any region that just straight out called it Totally Fucked.
No,
That'd be
probably
great.
not.
Level 10 is the final level,
seem
thank
to remember
God.
that one for
It's
some
called
reason, but-
See Jim Run, Run Jim Run.
This one's
This
pretty
is
challenging
basically
if you don't
nothing
do it
more
right.
than a race against the recurring nemesis, Psychro. Keeping up with this guy is almost impossible, with all these obnoxious barriers in your way and
Yeah.
poorly placed pitfalls. It's
Oof.
unforgiving as hell, and if you accidentally get the gun that shoots bubbles,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
useless, and you have to
Yeah.
give up. If you actually manage to stay ahead of Psychro and beat him to the finish line, Jim hails a cab, which crushes Psychro. He rescues Princess What's-Her-Name, and in a twist ending, all them turn out to be cows in disguise.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is really bizarre.
Well, Earthworm Jim 2 was an ordeal. The first one was mostly fun, but this one felt more like torture. So let's send it to the balance of shit justice.
It's still easier than the first one, though.
Well, as you can see, there's lots of turds weighing on it. I don't know. This one ain't the worst I ever played for sure, but too many turds.
I think both games are
I think
pretty
I've
great,
suffered
honestly.
enough. But there's another one. Earthworm Jim 3D on N64. Let's see how the franchise held up making the switch to 3D. So I'm putting in some overtime here, opening up a whole can of worms. And who'd want to do that? Worms are gross. And why would they be in a fucking can anyway?
For fishing.
Okay, so the game starts up with the most bizarre plot. Jim is in a hospital, unconscious, which is a very cheerful way to kick things off. His friends gather around, which includes Elvis for some reason. So the whole game takes place inside Jim's mind, where everything he does is part of a big mission to gain his consciousness back.
That's
right at the
weird.
start, you're collecting marbles. Get it? Like he lost his marbles? But then he has to find some chicken's underwear? Yeah, I don't know what the underwear has to do with anything. I'm only briefing you on the situation. The humor gets a little more crude. The phrase clucking hell is used, and Jim flips you off with what seems like the middle finger. I mean, he's flipping the bird, right? But the humor's gone so far off the rails, it doesn't come off as funny anymore. Why is he shooting out leprechauns? I'm supposed to knock out enemies with a leprechaun? Yeah, take that! You want a leprechaun in your hood? It caters more to the animated series, which had already come and gone by now, so you hear a lot of the Dan Castellaneta voice, which keeps making me think of Homer Simpson.
Of course.
Power! Ruby! Pain! I feel great! Win, win, win!
There's this one thing he keeps shouting. Sometimes it sounds like pain, other times like brain. I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but you hear it all the time.
Brain! 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 Oh no. Is that going to be the new Where Did You Learn to Fly?
No,
Brain!
I hope not.
Another thing you gotta get used to is the music. The first stage has this sort of country sounding song, and it just loops over and over and over. Then there's those disorienting camera angles. This is kind of like the curse of the time. It's what happened to many games of this era when they switched to 3D. So if Earthworm Jim already sucked sideways, now it sucks in 3 dimensions.
Oh, come on.
Brain! The levels are designed with these huge open spaces, as if they made the level first and then didn't have time to put that many enemies in there. So most of the time, there's nothing to comment on. You're just running around. It's flat out boring. Reviewing this game would be like telling you about my entire day. I woke up, I got out of bed, it was a little bit cold, I put my socks on, I went to the bathroom. When I flushed, I noticed the handle was a little loose. So I had to get that fixed. You don't want to hear all that shit.
Yeah.
Brain! There's even a stage where you hear a ticking clock. Let me ask you, is a ticking clock ever a good thing? That's what you hear in school when you're taking a test or waiting for the bell to ring. Tell me any situation where a ticking clock is something that puts you in a good mood or gets you excited. That sound sums up this whole game. Brain!
Too bad.
In order to keep sane, I have to do insane things like this.
That's funny.
There's the occasional funny thing to point out, like this Resident Evil spoof where chickens are jumping through windows.
That's
and the stage is called Poultrygeist, like the Trauma movie. Lloyd would be very egg-cited.
Oh, I didn't know there was a... That's awesome. Lloyd Kaufman. He's been in an AVGN episode before, which was a really good one. But yeah, Poultrygeist, poultry, chicken. Yeah, obviously.
There's also a ghost vacuum. Not like the kind in the first Ghostbusters game,
well,
but
no,
a literal
not.
ghost vacuum, implying that vacuums can be alive in the first place and have a soul.
Yeah,
then there's a
weird.
boss with a cannon coming out of its body. Now,
That's
come
that
on.
crow.
Why did they have to position the cannon right there?
I think they did it
Even
on
though this
purpose.
game is boring and uneventful, it's no cakewalk. It gets just as frustrating, probably even more so than the other games. First of all, those
Probably.
marbles. That's exactly what I want to do in a game. Go around collecting marbles. It's just as much fun as Superman 64, flying through all those rings.
Yikes.
The worst part's when you die, you lose all the marbles and have to start over.
Oh,
And there's
that's brutal.
quicksand everywhere. When you land in it, you can't jump. You're stuck and have to backtrack to get on the solid land. Then there's the knockback. When you get hit, it can knock you off the ledge.
Oh,
There's nothing
that's
fun
tough.
about any of this.
Dude, shut it down!
Ah!
Dude, shutting down!
Ass!
And if you want to know what the final boss is, it's a character known as Earthworm Kim, who is essentially a female version of Earthworm Jim. The boss fight is long and tedious, and after it's over, you'd hope there'd be at least a good ending, but no, there isn't.
Brain! Well, there you go. I beat the whole Earthworm Jim trilogy. Let's see how
No.
this one holds up on the balance of shit justice.
Well, the shit really weighs down on this one. I'd say this puts it in a very unfavorable category. Yeah. And if you want to put Earthworm Jim 3D on a scale with Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th 3D, and Amityville 3D, it doesn't even compare. It's not enjoyably bad. It's just bad.
For those who have fond memories of Earthworm Jim, I'm here to remind you, it wasn't all fun. It's a mixed bag, but mostly stay away from Earthworm Jim 3D. Yeah. Well, anyway, that was 3 reviews, so let's end this thing. See you next time with more shitty games.
Okay, the nerd wins. Oh my god. The cow wins, yeah, I figured. Okay. The way he's reviewing them, he's acting like those are the only 3 Earthworm Jim games. I've made this clear since the beginning of this video that there's more than just those 3 games. He completely skipped the Game Boy Color one. Now, it is different. It's not like just a flat-out side-scrolling platformer. I mean, it basically is, but it's big sandbox-like levels like Super Mario 64, but but you're required to collect a bunch of, I think it's like a bunch of tokens or coins or whatever, and then once you get enough of them, you beat the level. I kind of wish he at least mentioned that, because I'm not saying it's better than the first 2 Earthworm Jim games. I think the first 2 Earthworm Jim games are more easier to pick up and play. Not necessarily easier games. They're probably harder than that Game Boy Color one I'm mentioning. I mean, I don't know, that game was pretty hard too. But I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't get as mad at that game because it didn't have the gimmicks. The one on the Game Boy Color didn't really have gimmicks at all. It was platforming the whole time. You weren't like flying a ship. You weren't inflating your head. You weren't having to carry cows into out from plants into some kind of barn, but and dealing with UFOs that want to take away the cows. I'm gonna give it a like real quick. See, I left a comment right there. No mention the Game Boy Color game that came out. It's side-scrolling, but very, very different. First 2 games, and is quite good. But why don't I look it up right now, just so I can, so I'm not BSing you. Earthworm Jim Game Boy Color. Yes. There it is. That's the one I played. I played that one. Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy. I'm surprised he didn't mention that. I kind of wish he did. Did he not know it existed or something? Because it's a fun one. It's pretty good. Different, but it's fun. Here's a little bit of footage from it. Also, before I go, please check out my wife's Etsy shop. She's been doing a lot of great crochet. It's summer. Maybe check out some of these sunflowers. Sunflower pillow. Yeah, the Earthworm Jim games are pretty challenging. They are. They're not like unfairly challenging. I mean, some could argue that the first game is pretty unfairly challenging. Like the final level Buttville it's kind of a pain to go through. It's hard. You have to like jump on these little basketball things that are stuck against something in the background. But if you stand on it while waiting for the opportunity to jump on the next one, you slide off. So you're basically just constantly just jumping in place to make sure that you don't slide off. I mean, it's not a big deal to have to do the jumping thing, but it's kind of annoying that you have to do that, I guess. But not to mention, you have to, because if you jump into the next one, the enemy that's there kills you in one hit. So you have to wait for it to back off of the thing. The boss there is pretty challenging. The second game, it does have its faults. That level where you fly the ship and you have to bring the bomb from one side level to the end is kind of frustrating. It's tough to do because you're dealing with all these enemies while you're trying to do that. If you just fly to the end of the level without taking the bomb with you, you can't even beat the boss there. You need the bomb to beat the boss. So the thing is, though, the Earthworm Jim games are really creative. The fact that they actually put all the varieties of different gameplay styles throughout the different levels and it still works, I'd say is quite commendable, actually. It really is. James does have a point, though. The Earthworm Jim games are classics. They're fun, but they are still flawed. That is true, they are. But once you get used to playing them enough, you could beat them fairly easily if you're any good at video games. But yeah, they're a worthy challenge, and they're not too unfair of one. But from what I can tell, with Earthworm Jim 3D on the N64, they really did screw up with that one. It's no wonder why the series just kind of died after that. Menace to the Galaxy. That game was actually a lot more fair in its challenge, but it is a hard game too. But it's fun. I don't know if that came out after Earthworm Jim 3D or before it, but it was a good one. When Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out, that was when I had downloaded the Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. Well, actually, 2 was available later on the Wii Shopping channel, but I got back into the series again after I was like kind of on a long hiatus because I never actually owned an Earthworm Jim game besides the Game Boy Color one, which I think I just lost the cartridge or something. But the ones for console, the first two games, I never owned them. I rented the second one on Super Nintendo from Hollywood Video, competing chain against Blockbuster Video. But yeah, I had renewed interest in the game again because of the Wii Virtual Console, which is awesome. So I was thinking, because there was a MySpace group I was in at the time because MySpace was really big back then. It exists, but like most people don't know it exists anymore, and it's completely different. But anyway, nobody really uses it now. But back then it was really big, and I was in a MySpace group at the time where we talked about Super Smash Bros. Stuff, and there was a post about like, oh yeah, what about characters you'd like to see in Super Smash Bros. And I brought up Earthworm Jim. I think Earthworm Jim would be awesome in Super Smash Bros. Actually, it'd just be, with his whipping and his guns, maybe even some kind of snot thing for his recovery. But I don't know if they'd make use of his ship. That'd probably be too unfair, but it'd still be pretty awesome. All right, that said, thank you so much for watching. What do you think about the Earthworm Jim games? Are you familiar with them? Have you played them? Do you think they hold up? I think they do. I think they're classics. They're flawed, but they're classics. They're really fun. They're just challenging. At least the first two games. And I think Menace to the Universe was, or whatever it was, Menace to Space or whatever it was called for Game Boy Color, I thought was also a pretty good game as well, but he failed to mention it. Earthworm Jim 3D, though, I can tell that game does not hold up. Hey, so, um, as I've been reading comments and also looking through the footage as I had been editing whenever I've had chances to edit the original footage of this reaction video, due to needing to get this done because of how bad it lags on Earthworm Jim 3D in particular, as well as parts of Earthworm Jim and Earthworm Jim 2. Anyway, my opinion on this AVGN episode actually has changed. Now, okay, I'm not recording the usual spot. I'm usually on the kitchen counter over there, because then I could have the light give me the best lighting so it's easier to see. I'm using this lamp right here. I just want to get this done real quick, because I'm at the coffee table, which is where I go to edit. Right behind is some yarn for my wife to do, crochet when she has time. But anyway, AVGN is still really funny in this episode, making some funny jokes, but I am pretty disappointed in this episode, because especially in Earthworm Jim 2, I could see this. I could tell that he or Kieran or whoever intentionally did the wrong thing when playing to show how bad things were. James had made it clear in his Making an AVGN episode back with the Barbie one in 2012, I think, that he was going to try not to be doing that like he used to with the angry Nintendo nerd episodes, like Karate Kid. But you could tell in some of the footage, just look back at it, you can look back on the video or on this reaction, however you please, you can tell at some of the time he's just kind of doing things more slowly than he should, or going the wrong direction intentionally to show how bad things are. It's especially so in the office level in Earthworm Jim 2, where he's like not making the jump over the filing cabinet, even though he should do it, no problem. Or in the same game when he is being too slow to react to the alien, to the UFO abducting the cow. He could have easily picked up the cow and moved over and been fine. So, anyway, and of course, he literally called it a trilogy. It's like he doesn't know there's other Earthworm Jim games. Now, the only other one, because I actually decided to look it up on Google, Wikipedia, whatever, the only other one is that Game Boy Color one I mentioned, Menace to the Galaxy. I really wish if he's going to review Earthworm Jim, he would have reviewed that too, and he didn't. So, I've changed my opinion on this episode. I don't think it's the worst. I don't think it's among the worst, but it's a bit disappointing. If you want to see my original opinion of it, I did leave it in the original reaction, but I edited it out for this one.